There's no question in my mind that the camera is an instrument that teaches people how to see without a camera. I think as photographers we spend a lot of our time looking at the world as if we're looking through a viewfinder, looking at the subject, looking at the composition, and most of all, for me at least, looking at the light. Who could have predicted that at the age of 9 I would develop a lifelong fascination with light? It was a school trip to a local museum, and it was there where I first saw the beautifully atmospheric and magical paintings of local 18th century artist Joseph Wright. It was the work of Joseph Wright, Caravaggio, Rembrandt, Vermeer and Leonardo da Vinci, all of whom are great exponents of three-dimensional lighting. And it's that same kind of lighting that I look for in my own work, particularly portraiture. I believe photography helps us be mindful. I love spending time at home between shoots. I love to watch the light. I love to watch the seasons. I never get bored of it. It's always different. There's always something new to see. Some portraits are very personal. This is one of my closest friends, Harold Hastie. He and I first met 25 years ago when I was making a film about whiskey and sailing, which are two things that are definitely best left well apart. I asked if I could steer Harold's boat through a force 8 gale, and he said, yeah, of course, just follow this heading, which I did. Film crew thrown up over the side, me drenched in perspiration. 3 hours later, we arrive in gear, and then about 6 months later, I find out that the boat was on autopilot the whole time. These pictures were taken in an airport training rig. This particularly interested me because it's in a mock fuselage, which is normally completely black, but there are two doors, one this side and one this side, so I put Chris in the middle. Chris had a very symmetrical face, as you can see, and you get this almost studio light. In the post-production, I put a lot of clarity and structure into this to make it gritty. That was shot on the 85mm prime. These were actually the first use of the Canon 5DS, the 50 megapixel chip. And they make extremely good prints. One of my favourites from that series is Robbie, who was age 9 at the time, and I was taking a picture actually of his dad, Scott, who's here, the gamekeeper, and Robbie just appeared with the puppy and a lolly, and I turned and I just pointed I think it was the 24-70 lens wide open. It was a grab shot, and I put the focus actually on the puppy, not on Robbie, and I love the result. It was very much a spontaneous picture. Same with this one actually. This was a grab shot. I turned from taking this picture of Chris, and Neil was in the open doorway at the end, and the sprinkler systems had finished from the fire training, and this was with the 85 prime at 1.2, and you get this incredible bokeh with the water. Quite amazing. That same series of work, the same series of portraits led to a huge commission for me for Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, and this is one of the portraits from that commission. I love this picture because it's a narrative picture, it's a narrative portrait, and the idea being that Yogi here, I wanted to try and somehow capture a little bit of his personality. Everyone on the island has a nickname, so I thought, how can I tell the Yogi's story? So I had him cross-legged on a cask. But again, this was all about the light. It was about getting him in the right light at the right time of day. Tiny bit of fill from here. But if you look closely, you can once again see the beautiful three-dimensional light, and it's just falling over the bridge of his nose. Gorgeous. This is part of a series of pictures that I've taken with Isla RNLI, and I chose to shoot these diptychs to tell stories, so kind of a narrative-driven solution to portraiture. So as you can see, I photographed them in window light. The challenge here was to recreate the same light, but in their everyday jobs, and that wasn't easy. It was quite tricky actually. Paddy, for example, here, I had to flip him because the light was actually coming from that direction. I even got him to change his wedding ring so I wouldn't have to do it in Photoshop later, so you have to think quite a lot. But I'm really proud of these pictures. This is Cara, third generation RNLI volunteer. Her dad is the lifeboat operations manager. And there's something really moving about what these people do, and I wanted to try and capture that in my work. A lot of people criticise me, even the volunteers themselves, about how nobody's smiling, but we did get Scott to smile, so here. And of course Harold's a bit cheeky in that one. I love this series with Terence Stamp. I met him in a tea shop, and after a chat he agreed to come back the next day and be photographed in the same tea shop. This was shot in the window of the tea shop. We talked for a long, long time before I even brought the camera up between us. I love this picture because you can still recognise who he is, but the teacup is in front of his face. His eyes are one of his most striking characteristics. He also agreed to go to another location, which was great, and that's where I got this picture. Yeah, for me, this is probably one of my favourite types of light. This is soft light. It's coming through a shuttered window, so it's just like a slice of light almost. But you can see it's falling over his face like this, and you've got this wonderful sort of chiaroscuro, three-dimensional light, and some people call this the Rembrandt triangle. And this is where my influences came from in light, from painters. I've been lucky enough to work with many great photographers in my career, but there's one who's influenced me more than any other, and that's Sir Don McCullin. We share the same agent. Because of that, it's given me the opportunity to work with Don many times now. Don's an obsessive when it comes to light. You can be in a conversation with him, and mid-conversation he'll stop and he'll say, "Look at the light." Probably one of the most important portraits I've ever taken was this one. This one was taken recently, just 6 months ago, and it's astronaut Al Worden. He's the command module pilot on Apollo 15, and he orbited the moon 75 times on one of the most complex missions of the entire Apollo space program. I had just a few days to prepare for this picture, and I actually took it at Excel at an exhibition. I managed to persuade a company that had a planetarium tent to allow me to use it as a blackout studio, and with a single light I actually managed to light Al. And I bought this moon globe from Amazon just 2 days before. It's a very poignant picture, and probably one of the last professional pictures ever taken of Al, as he recently died, sadly. John Clear is one of the world's great mountain photographers and filmmakers, and he and I have been friends for 30 years now. This was around the time of John's 80th birthday, just before I think, and I shot it through dappled tree light. I love the light that sort of gets diffused through trees, and that's how I managed to get this picture. John's not a big fan of it, but I love it. I put him in my jacket, which kind of framed him, and it sort of gave a nod to his background. I'd say about 80% of my work is in the capture and 20% in the post. And definitely here I've added structure and clarity to that portrait. Certainly one of my favourites. Canon Europe CEO and President, Mr. Ishizuka. A corporate portrait shot in window light, soft light. It was an overcast day. As well as this more conventional corporate portrait, I wanted to challenge myself and try and create a narrative-driven portrait. And it just so happened that a few months before, Canon had launched the EOS R system, the first new camera system for Canon in 30 years, which involved a new mount. I was able to get hold of that mount and then get it into the hands of Mr. Ishizuka, and these are the results. A very different type of portrait. Mr. Ishizuka looking forward, as if looking through a crystal ball, through the new mount and to the next 30 years of the brand. Editorial shoot on the set of the hit TV show Downton Abbey. The brief was behind the scenes, and after an hour of shooting they wrapped early for the day. I was left in a very difficult position because I felt I hadn't fulfilled the brief, and so I had a long discussion with the PR company, who then in turn had a discussion with the cast and crew, and thankfully for me, several of the actors agreed to sit for me for portraits. And this is just one of the results. This is Jessica Brown Finley. And what was great about this was that Jessica was in costume and had just come off the set. So it meant I could direct her as I might do as if I was the director of the show. And I asked her to go into character, and she did. And I said, can you relive the last scene? And fortunately for me, the last scene was this one. And she'd sat with a dying soldier, and by reliving that scene, within seconds, her eyes welled up and she started to cry, which gave me these extraordinary portraits. I sometimes wonder where actors go to find that deep level of emotion. It's incredible to work with such talent, and it's very much a team effort when you can create pictures like this. The irony, of course, with this is that none of these pictures were used by the original client, but thankfully they were picked up by Life magazine in the USA and have been run twice since. Karen Gillan in Cannes. One of the most fun shoots I've ever had. Karen was just a joy to work with. This was at the time when she'd just finished playing Amy Pond in Doctor Who and was about to go to LA and Hollywood. And this was for the British Film Company. She was launching a film in Cannes at the time, and I was invited to join them and spent the weekend there, and this is the results of that shoot. Karen, before being an actor, was also a model, and so was very easy in front of the camera and had lots of ideas. Because she was about to go to Hollywood, I wanted to try and create a narrative portrait, and this, I guess, was probably my favourite, where she lay on the diving board and just touched the water of the villa's pool, which to me felt like she was looking into a potential future. Actually, I think here I got a 1DX, and it was a 70-200, right on the water's edge there to get that picture. Another favourite was this one, where we were having a break, and actually Karen was sat here with the rest of the team, and I was just setting my camera up and spotted this scene and put a 35mm prime on and asked Karen if she'd just come and sit in this chair here, which I'd actually arranged to get this chair and table put into this position. And she immediately went into this beautiful pose, which only an actor or model can do, and created this really serene and beautiful picture. And I love the fact that people are walking by and just looking. Another favourite. There are many pictures from this shoot, but these are 3 of my favourite pictures. And a very memorable shoot. I love my work with the Birmingham Royal Ballet and with Principal Tyrone Singleton. Not only is he a hugely talented dancer, but a very talented photographer too. And he and I have collaborated on several projects since we first met back in 2017. These are two shots, both taken again in window light in one of the studios at BRB. Of course, we're not all lucky enough to have a house as big as this, but if we did, we'd have this huge light source here. This was an overcast day, so it was great. It was very diffused. It was lovely. This was in rehearsals for Swan Lake. Very, very fortunate to be witness to something like that. And of course, dancers, ballerinas, they're all creative people. So when you discuss ideas with them, they get a vested interest and they love it. They love the process. Same with actors. Actors are very similar. But it's hard not to take good pictures of ballerinas. I mean, light gives us atmosphere. But the other thing that can give us atmosphere is prime lenses and shooting very shallow depth of field, as I've done here, where this is probably shot wide open. This will be a 50mm at 1.2.